All right, I thought that was just a great total team win. Handling our business, 2 games in 5 days, that feels really good. And we got a great challenge in front of us going to Detroit, premier team in the National Football League. And we're going to have to play our best to have an opportunity to beat them.
Since you mentioned Detroit, how do you feel like you're in a better spot now than you were a month ago, just based on your current level of play?
Yeah, I think just, the one thing that stands out to me is just we're being physical in every phase of football, and I think that's going to do us well. I think that gives you a chance each and every week, and it shows up all over the tape, whether it's our linebackers hitting people, whether it's up front, our receivers blocking. I can't say enough about how the job that Wicks does out there, and the physicality that when you get it from the skill positions, it changes the complexion of your team. Obviously, Josh Jacobs has been huge. He just continues to run really hard. Tucker Kraft, I can't say enough great things about him, his ability to get downhill, and he's a tough guy to tackle. So really in every phase of the game, I think our guys are being extremely physical, and that's something we can hang our hat on.
You said you're going to have to play your best to beat the Lions. I'm curious, do you think, I know you're not playing perfect football, and I'm sure there's things you're not happy about, but do you think you're playing your best football of the year at this point based on what you've done the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think Miami's a really good football team. And, they're going to, it's the National Football League. Everybody's going to have their moments. I think our ability to jump out to a big lead obviously was instrumental, but I was really proud of our defense. They have a second goal on the 1-yard line, and to be able to hold them out of the end zone there, that was a critical moment in the game.
About that defense, you got contributions from everybody on that front four. It's probably been a while since you've been able to say that. What does that mean for that unit being effective if you're getting it from those guys up front?
Oh, it's huge. I think the only thing that I would say that we got to do a much better job on is we got to make sure we line up on sides. It feels like it's Groundhog Day. It's been too many games in a row now. So it wasn't perfect, but I do like the intentionality is there in terms of just playing with our hands, playing physical, coming off the ball. We just got to be a little bit smarter and make sure we're checking with the officials so we don't line up in the neutral zone, and then just being a little bit more disciplined in terms of when we get off the football.
Matt, what do you think allowed the defense to make that stop? Because it seemed like Miami's moving, they got the defense on the heels, but then they rise up in a big moment there.
Yeah, I think just our guys were playing physical and made a couple plays there. They tried to run a keeper with out of the gun, and Keyshawn was kind of all over it, and we got good penetration on that 4th down play and got the sack. So I think our guys they did their job.
What do you think of Love's decision-making since the bye? And was that something that you guys during that time talked about, or do you think that's something that he just thought about as?
I would tell you the thing that we stress the most is just playing with good fundamentals and reading with your feet, and I think he's done it in practice. He's been very conscious of doing that. I think Tom does a great job with our quarterbacks and just making sure that giving them the coaching points that they need. But it's ultimately up to the player to take it, and I think he's taken it to heart, and he works extremely hard, and I think he's playing his best ball right now. I really do. I think he's done a great job of taking what's there, taking the checkdowns when they're there, or taking the shots when they're there. And he's moving around the pocket, I think, really well. I think our O-line's doing a pretty good job, but when it's not perfect up front, he's able to buy time or get out of harm's way and get rid of the football, and that's critical for us.
Matt, you faced some pretty good running backs these past couple weeks. 30 carries for 83 yards combined over the past 2 weeks allowed. What's been the difference in your run defense?
That's a great question. I just think it all starts up front in terms of being able to set edges. Anytime in the run game you can get penetration and get some knockback, it makes it extremely difficult on offenses. And we're getting a lot of hats to the football, and that's what I see. Is I see a physical brand of football where guys are running to the ball, and we're not missing a ton of tackles, and guys are doing their job.
Have you seen a difference from Quay these past 2 weeks?
Oh yeah, Quay's been playing his best ball. I don't think that anybody would dispute that. I think he's playing. He's got a better feel for what we're asking him to do. I think Anthony Campanelli does a hell of a job with our backers. And I think really all collectively, our linebackers are playing pretty well right now. And you saw it not only in the run game with Quay, but when we're bringing him on blitzes, he's extremely effective at setting some picks and then getting pressure on the quarterback himself. So I'm really happy with where he's at and where he's a resilient dude, and he's very, very critical of himself. And he's hard on himself, and sometimes you got to help, pick him up because he's a really talented football player, and I think his best ball's in front of him.
Hey, Matt, I think Josh had 9 carries for 30 yards and a touchdown in the first quarter. He finishes with only 43 yards. But what do those carries do for you, even if they're not gaining as much yardage as you're hoping for?
Well, he's so physical, and he's making people miss. And there were some, there were some bad calls in terms of the run game for me, and there were moments where we didn't block it the right way. So we whiffed on a couple blocks. But I thought what do you have, 74 yards in the passing game? He had that critical reception on the check down for 49 yards that put us in scoring position. So I thought all in all, his contributions were certainly felt.
I asked you a bunch of times early in the year about the red zone offense struggling. So what have you liked here the last few weeks in that regard?
That we're scoring touchdowns.
Beyond that, what's made that possible, though?
We're not killing ourselves with too many negative plays, although we did have one where we're at the half-yard line, and whether, we had an opportunity, we can't do that. And I talked to Elton about it, and because that was a real decision to make. I still think we would have kicked it just with the score being what it was at that point. But, we can't take ourselves out of opportunities like we did in that situation.
Now, what'd you think of the early game sequence where you get Keyshawn's return, then you have to punt, then they muff it, and you get the ball there, and you get the touch? What did you kind of feel about that?
I didn't like how we started offensively. We get a false start on second down, and then we took a shot, and we just missed the throw. I think Jordan had to step up pretty hard. He was pretty much running up in the pocket, and we just missed it. So that was not the ideal start, but luckily, they muff a punt, and Scooter makes the play. And Scooter was playing with a heavy heart today. He had a little tragedy in his personal life, and we certainly appreciate his contributions and him being out there for his teammates, and it was cool for him.
Do you treat this upcoming week like a normal week with everything moved up 3 days, or do you give them extra time off? What are you going to do there?
It's a pretty normal week. I do think that we got to be conscious of just the amount of football we've played in the last 5 days. 2 physical games. So we'll adapt the schedule a little bit. I'm going to give the guys who are not going to see us tomorrow, they still got to come in and get their treatment and their workout, and then they'll be off on, Saturday? And then we'll be back in on Sunday, and we're going to treat that like a Wednesday. It's just whether or not we treat that more as a walkthrough, or that's probably the way I'm leaning, just in terms of, I think, how physical we've been playing. And then we'll get back on a normal Thursday, Friday schedule, which I don't even know what that day is right now, before we go to Detroit on Wednesday.
What does it mean for your passing game when, you can check it down to Tucker, you can check it on to Josh, and those little 1-yard passes become a whole bunch of yards because
opens up a lot of stuff. Those are leaky yards, and nobody wants to give up those, but both those guys are so physical, and they're tough to bring down, and then when you do bring them down, you feel them. So Tuck's an animal, and I think we all I think you'd all agree with that, both him and Josh. And it's not just those two guys. I think really, I just love the mentality of our football team. Our guys, they strain for one another, they fight, they block, and they try to inflict pain, which, as a coach, you'd love to see.
Two more, please. Matt, you talked about the run defense before. You got 5 sacks tonight. 4 of the 5 were from down linemen. Do you feel like that group is starting to turn the corner after maybe not being as productive as they needed to be early in the year?
Yeah, I think they've done a nice job, but you're only as good as your last game, and we got to keep pushing. And we have an opportunity, and we're going against, you could argue, maybe the best offensive line in football, so it's going to be a huge challenge. And you can't rest on what you did, and you got to continue to look forward, and it's going to be a great challenge for us.
Good. What did you think the best thing was that you guys did? Well, he said 2 more, and I'm not going to pass up a leftover. What do you think was the best thing you guys did, either as a staff or as a team, with the short week? I know it was the same for everybody, but obviously the results look pretty darn good.
Yeah, I just think that our guys have the right mentality in terms of knowing that we have to come in, put in the work. They do a great job of holding each other accountable. And it's always about the locker room. You know, you can sit there and try to tell them one thing or another, but it's on them to embrace it and accept it and continue to push each other to get better and better and better. And that's really all we're all about, is just all you can ask of anybody is for them to be at their best and to continue to work at it. And we've got a great group. I love that locker room. I love those guys in that room. It's a special group.